Welcome back to another episode of Digital Bytes, everyone. I'm your host, Lindsay Schmidt, and today we are bringing in one of our Nish Tech Analytics experts, David, who is going to give us a crash course in some of the recurring questions that we get around the topic of website analytics. Let's see what he has to say. Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, great, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. And thanks for joining us today. So David, as you know, today on Digital Bytes, we are going to be covering a topic that we've seen come up over and over again. We get a lot of questions and general curiosity about, and that is the topic of website analytics. So since you are the Nish Tech Analytics expert, we thought we would pick your brain a bit, if that's all right.
That sounds great.
All right, so let's jump right in. To start us off, can you give us a quick overview of kind of get us a baseline? What do we mean when we're talking about website analytics, first of all?
Sure. Well, to set the stage, Google's analytics platform has been around since 2005, and everybody talks about it, but not a lot of people get the firsthand experience in it. They've done a lot of work with it, and what it does is it tracks the user interactions on your site, how many people visit, what they do, and things like that. Google's actually has a new version that's just released last year that has some promise going forward. Google Analytics 4, it's called. But you know, all these pieces are working together to help you understand your customer better.
Okay, well that makes sense. So now that we have a baseline, a question that we get often in new implementations, especially from some of the folks who may not be as familiar with the concept of analytics, is what's the difference between Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager?
Sure. So Google Tag Manager is pretty much that. It's a tag manager. So it works together with analytics, but it also has a life of its own. So Google Tag Manager can work to manage any kind of tags you have on your website. So you don't have to go in and edit your website. You can edit Google Tag Manager and your website automatically updates. Now, Google Analytics is one of those tags that Google Tag Manager interacts with. So Google Analytics will send information to Google Tag Manager, and it will interact with Google Analytics to give you the full picture of your site and let you do some more granular tracking of your site.
Okay, well, that helps clarify things then. So let's talk about some of the specific features that you might find within Google Analytics and things that you can leverage. Can you help us out with the terms sessions versus new users? What's the difference and what is maybe more valuable to track?
Sure. So a user is really the number of unique visitors on your site. So these are the people that come to your website, and let's say somebody visits your site 100 times on the same device or browser. They would really only count as one user. Mm-hmm. But and they could be a new user, a returning user, but they would still count as one user. And a session is different, and that's the really total number of visits to your site, including new and repeat visits. So to tie it back to that example, the same person who visited your site 100 times on the same device was one user, but since they did it at different times, they generated 100 sessions. Okay. But then if that person visited 3 pages on your site in each of those 100 sessions, it would count as 300 page views, but it would still only be 100 sessions. Okay. So a session you can think of as like a half-hour visit and come in, do some stuff and leave, and that's a session. Okay,
makes sense. And then something that I think we hear a lot about, but seems to be maybe more of a gray area, is the bounce rate. Can you tell us what does the bounce rate tell us actually?
Yeah, so a bounce rate is just to baseline it. It's important because it tells you how many people are, or maybe more importantly, how many aren't engaging with a web page or website content, or getting that user experience. So you calculate a bounce rate when somebody visits a single page on your website and then they do nothing and you never hear from them again. Mm-hmm. So when the bounce rate really measures how the visitors leave a page without performing any action. So they didn't buy anything, they didn't fill out a form, they didn't click on a link, they just came and left. And really, the analytics and tracking really help you kind of determine why that might be. Maybe it's expected. Maybe it's just one page that has nothing that can be interacted with. So that would be expected. But a lot of times it's things like, slower page speed, or maybe pop-ups that make people nervous, or poor usability, or pages that aren't optimized, or maybe there's blank pages or technical error. All these kind of things. Another big one is that pages might not be mobile friendly. Or maybe they just went to the wrong site. They mistyped it and it landed on your site instead of where they wanted to be. So yeah, it can bounce rate is just somebody coming and not doing anything and going, but there can be a lot of reasons for that.
Okay, that actually seems like it would be useful as a business to know that. So something else that seems like it would be really helpful is being able to identify maybe heavily trafficked areas, or even the opposite. Is there a way within Google Analytics to find the most popular pages of the website?
Yeah, it's something called top pages. It's under the behavior section in Google Analytics, and you'll really be able to see what the top pages are that contribute to your site volume. So you look at the page, looking at the page views of the site, you identify which ones are your most popular, and it can help you understand how your audience is, what your audience is finding most important and responds to. You can also slice and dice those top pages with what we call a secondary dimension. So you can look at those and see, this is my most popular page, but only on mobile, or this is my most popular page that was shared socially, and people came to from a social media. So it's really important to know which are your top performing pages, as well as which ones are not performing well that you might expect to.
Okay, so kind of on the same thread, can Google Analytics tell you anything in real time? For example, if I'm a customer on the site and I'm doing whatever activity, is there a way as an administrator where I can log into Google Analytics and see that information in real time?
Yeah, absolutely. So Google Analytics gives you a snapshot view of the real-time activity on your site. So you can look at it at a glance, how many people are on your site right now, and what the ratio of desktop to mobile usage is. Who's referring people to your site? Is it coming in through social or maybe paid advertising? You can see the top active pages. So maybe if you just did a marketing push to a landing page, you can see those pages getting a lot of activity real time, locations where people are coming from, a lot of different information that's available just at real time. It also helps, just knowing if you do need to take your site down for any reason, you can gauge if it's, if it wouldn't make sense at a particular time where there's a ton of people on it. So a lot of at a glance information. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I think we're probably all aware and on the same page that general website speed and performance is probably a top priority for most businesses. Are there any analytics tools that can be leveraged to maybe help dig deeper into issues or potential issues with website speed?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the biggest ones is Google's Page Speed Insight. You go there and it'll let you understand the page in depth and what's the most helpful way to make those pages perform better. You'll hear a lot about Google's Core Web Vitals. What that means is Google's taking how Google looks at your website and establishes if it should rate it higher in its rankings. So it looks at the user's experience, how quickly the page comes up, if it bounces around a lot, how soon you can interact with that site. So all these things kind of lead to people getting to your site, and then once they're there, the experience that they'll have. So Google, the Google Page Speed Insights tell you specifically, it's one for your developers, how to improve the site. Also, you can look at other tools like even Inspect Lighthouse within the Google browser. So a lot of different ways to look at the data and analyze how you improve your site speed.
Wow, I did not know that it could go that in depth, so that's pretty cool. And then another area, especially with us working in the e-commerce sector, what would you say are the top 3 analytics that e-commerce should be tracking?
Yeah, so I think the e-commerce tracking is important because you need to understand your audience. Your conversion rate is one of the biggest things. You need to know if you're hitting your goals, if you've made that sale. Also your page exit, your exit page. So what that means is when somebody comes to your site, where do they stop interacting with your site? Hopefully it might have been at the thank you page after a purchase, but if it's on your product detail page, everybody's leaving, there's probably a reason why. And then I think also, you know, a lot of advertising dollars go into promoting your e-commerce site. So your channels report really telling you where your traffic's coming from, your paid advertising, if it's coming from Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or paid advertisements. It really helps you know if your marketing dollars are working.
Okay, makes sense. And I know we're coming up on time here, so just maybe to close things out, can you give us kind of a quick summary for why analytics would be useful for a business to implement if they haven't already done so yet?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's something that you can set up relatively easy, and it does all the heavy lifting for you in the background. It comes with stock reporting, and you can have out of the box stock reporting, and then build your own custom reports within the analytics tools, so you can really tailor the data how you want to see it. It integrates with other Google tools like AdWords and Search Console. You can look at your own site's search. So what are people looking for when they get to your site, and maybe improve that interaction. Understand why people are leaving your site. Understand how to improve the content of your site. As we said before, measure your goal achievement. Are people filling out the forms? Are they making the purchase? Things like that. All in all, two big things: know your audience, and then the probably the biggest thing, it's free. It's free to implement, free to use, and it gives you critical information you need to know about your e-commerce site.
Why wouldn't you use it then, right?
Right.
Well, this is all really, really great information, David, and thank you for taking the time to walk through this with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lindsay.
All right, folks. Well, this was a very quick overview of website analytics. If you want to dive deeper into the topic of analytics, drop us a line and we would be happy to answer any other questions that you might have. Thanks again for joining us today, David.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for popping in for a quick speed round on website analytics and why it's important to start thinking about utilizing this tool if you haven't already yet. Make sure to catch us on the next episode. We'll see you soon.